the energy from the ATP is used to pump electrolytes. So hydrogen, the mitochondria of our body use hydrogen, not H2, H plus. The energy from the ATP is used to pump electrolytes. So, okay. So, these electrolytes are very important because that's how the body makes energy. You have to have these differences inside your cells. You have a lot of potassium, and outside the cells, there's a very little bit of potassium. And that difference is what allows us to function, to pump things, to use things, to move move the impulse of a nerve from your toe all the way up to your brain and back again. And all of that is done with electrolytes. So that's why they're so important. And people talk about them all day. Oh, you got to have good electrolytes. Oh, are your electrolytes okay? Oh, no, you better fix your electrolytes. Um, Huberman did a podcast on electrolytes, and it was very interesting because because he's a neurologist, right? So he's talking about the nervous system and how important these are. And so he says every morning he dumps an electrolyte solution into water and drinks that. Getting enough salt is important. We are told so often by cardiologists that we want to lower our blood pressure. So you want to have very low sodium diets. Get off of sodium. Don't eat sodium. And so I have people who are so obsessed about that they will never put a grain of salt on their food. It's just a constant avoiding salt is what they do all the time. Well, what ends up happening is they become dehydrated because they don't have enough salt, and then their body can't function very well. So, your next question was, what about dehydration? Well, how is that related? Well, your hydration status is how much water you have on your body, and your kidneys have the function of determining the level of electrolytes. So you need to have that sodium level of 140, and it's a very little, 138 to 145. It's like has to stay right in that range all the time. And so if you drink a whole bunch of water, then your relative amount of salt is going to drop down, and your kidneys are going to go, oh no. Two options. One, get rid of water. Two, hold on to sodium. And it usually picks both options. So then you pee a lot because you're drinking a lot of water, and your kidneys are going, we got to get those electrolytes balanced again so that all of your nervous system can function and your muscles and everything else. The kidneys are in the process of doing that constantly, constantly. So every time you drink water, your kidneys are going, okay, we got to bring it back into balance. Every time you eat salt, the salt level goes up, because the kidneys are like, oh, we got to bring that back into balance. So you're excreting salt into your urine, or you're holding on to salt, or you're excreting water into your urine, or you're holding on to water. Potassium, same thing. The potassium has to be dumped out periodically or continuously as well, or held on to depending on what the levels are. So, so this is what's going on with electrolytes and why they're so important to the functioning of your body. You can't just not, well, you actually don't have to worry about it because your kidneys worry about it, right? Your kidneys are taking care of all of this all the time. So, do you have to think about your electrolytes all the time? No, you definitely don't. If you have normal kidney function, it's all going to be really normal. You don't have to worry about it. You can drink a whole lot of water, and your kidneys will be able to put it out in your urine very easily. You can eat a whole bunch of salt. In fact, good normal functioning kidneys can handle 40 grams of salt a day. You know what that means? That means you could live on salt pork all the time and just, and just nothing else and still have normal electrolytes. Um, Part of what you do have to think about, though, is the ones that you're not getting enough of. So it's balance that's more important than amount, exactly. So if your electrolytes are not properly balanced, then you're going to lose some functionality. So, potassium has to be balanced with the sodium. They have to be properly balanced. And if they're not properly balanced, then things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. Nervous system isn't going to function well, for example. There are people who, well, there was somebody here in California, up in Sacramento. Somebody said they were from Sacramento a long time ago. This is over 10 years ago. They had um, a competition to see who could drink the most water in an hour. And the lady that won the competition died because her sodium, she had drank so much water and her kidneys couldn't get rid of it fast enough. And her relative amount of sodium was so low from drinking all that water that her nervous system quit functioning and she actually died. It's not the only time it's ever happened, but it does happen periodically. You can die from a lack of sodium, right? Or too much water. So, a lot of people are told these days, oh, you should be drinking a gallon of water a day.
Mm.
And sometimes you have to be really careful because if you're not getting enough sodium to balance that, you could drop too low in sodium, which means you're going to have low blood volume. So how do you know? Here's how you know. It's really, really simple. If you're sitting down, mind your own business, and then you stand up suddenly and you go, whoa, and you got to hold on to something or else you're going to fall down. That is hypotension, low blood pressure. It means you don't have enough blood volume to get blood up to your head when you suddenly stand up. It all runs down into your legs and feet and body and everything. And your head, your brain's going, whoa, I'm not getting enough blood here. That's generally a low volume problem, which is often from a lack of sodium. So that would mean you would need to add salt. So in this Huberman podcast that I was talking about, one of the things he does is add salt, sodium, with some other electrolytes, magnesium and that, to water every day and drink it every morning. To have that, to start off with these electrolytes, to have sufficient. And then he can drink a lot of water all day long and not worry about depleting all of his sodium. Well, you're going to get sodium in food. You can't avoid it. You're going to get some. But if you add salt, you're going to get more. So why do they keep telling people to not eat salt when you need it so badly? There are a few people whose kidneys don't get rid of salt very well. They have an issue. And it could be an adrenal issue. The adrenal glands put out something called aldosterone that regulates this salt level. And if they're not regulating it properly and you eat a lot of salt, then your blood pressure will tend to go up. And then so some people are salt sensitive and they have to be careful with not eating too much salt. But really what it is getting balance to get enough potassium. So that's the other side of it. And that is how do you make sure you get enough potassium? Potassium is found in fruits and vegetables, pretty much beans and seeds and all that kind of stuff. And it's found in good amounts, but there are a lot of people who don't eat very much fruits and vegetables. And you need somewhere around 4,000 milligrams, 4 grams of potassium a day. And so you think about, what are you getting? People say, oh, I'll eat a banana. Well, okay, there's 300. You need 4,000. You need more than 10 times banana. So you're going to what? Eat 12 bananas a day, and then you're going to get your 4,000, right? Um, People who are on carnivore type diets sometimes don't get enough potassium because there isn't a lot of potassium in meat. So a baked potato with the skin on has like 900 milligrams of potassium. That's like 3 bananas. Avocado has about 800 milligrams of potassium. Oranges and apples and most fruits about that size are all going to have somewhere around 200, 300 milligrams of potassium. So if you're getting fruits and vegetables, especially fresh ones, you're going to be getting enough potassium in your diet. If you're eating lots of things with tons of sodium and not getting enough potassium, then that's the imbalance problem. So, getting enough potassium is more difficult in our day just because we don't automatically eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and we automatically eat a lot of meat and prepared foods, which are relatively low in potassium.
And high in sodium.
And high in sodium,
Mhm.
exactly. So the balance is really the issue. So it's not that people should never eat sodium. It's that they should balance their sodium and potassium. So beans, for example, if you eat beans, if you just cook the beans without any salt in them, it has 10 times more potassium than sodium. If you add salt to it, it's exactly the opposite. It's 10 times more sodium than potassium by the time it tastes good to people, or, most prepared beans, for example. So, so if you cook things at home and you use light amounts of salt, then you're going to have reasonable electrolytes, and uh, and they're going to be balanced easily. Your kidneys are really good at that, as long as you're getting enough.
Mhm.
The other electrolyte is magnesium, and the reason that's an issue is because magnesium is a common deficiency. And for the same reason, anything green has magnesium. Well, what do you eat that's green? Do you eat kale, spinach, Swiss chard? Do you eat greens every day? Do you eat broccoli? That's green. The other things that have magnesium in them are anything that grows, nuts and seeds, beans, peas, lentils, all of those kinds of things. They all have magnesium in them. So if we had staple foods, like, some areas of the world, they eat beans as a staple food, meaning like every day they eat beans. So that means they're going to get a lot of potassium or a lot of magnesium. Whereas we don't have any staple foods that we eat that are high in magnesium. Meat isn't high in magnesium. French fries are not high in magnesium.
But they're so
Uh,
good.
they're so good. So there's our problem with electrolytes is not that we don't get any. It's balancing them, and the two electrolytes really that people should be concerned about primarily are getting enough of the magnesium and potassium, because you're gonna get a lot of sodium because all the foods you have a lot of sodium. So people often say they have to put, salt in their water or something like that. Yeah, okay, fine. You're getting sodium. And your kidneys can handle it, no problem. That's not an issue. But how are you going to get enough potassium? That's where the problem is. Because potassium's an irritant. There's supplements for potassium, and these supplements have like 99 milligrams of potassium. And
Mm.
you're going, 99 milligrams, and I need uh 4,000 milligrams. This little potassium pill is like a drop in the bucket for your day's supply of potassium. Compared to, like, say, for example, you were looking at something like you're going to take magnesium 400 milligrams, and you need about 500 milligrams a day. So, you've
Close.
put a big dent in your magnesium need with a supplement. But potassium, it's way difficult, because potassium is an irritant that irritates the stomach. And so they make really small pills and they dissolve quickly so that they don't cause ulcers in your stomach. Because potassium will eat away the lining. It actually makes the membranes of cells into soap.
Oh,
If you've ever had liquid soap, those are potassium soaps, and it's just
wow.
fat mixed with soap, and the membranes of your cells are fat, and so you put potassium in there, it's going to make soap.
Who knew?
Uh, isn't that interesting?
It is. Very
Yes.
interesting.
So that's why you don't get potassium pills in, like a 1,000 milligram potassium pill, which is what you need, but It's
Your stomach
irritating.
wouldn't be able to handle it, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Dr. Saunders, are there tests to do? Like, how do I know if my electrolytes, if things are out of balance, other than, the side effects you mentioned, like if you're dizzy or, is that like a regular blood test that our doctors may do? Or like, how do you know? Are you just watching for the problems or can you be proactive?
Well, the usual blood test, almost everybody has a blood test called a comprehensive metabolic panel. If you're going to do any test, they'll almost always add that one in. And they tell you what your blood levels of sodium, potassium, calcium at least. Some of them have magnesium, but not all of them do. And then they have chloride and CO2 as well. So yeah, they're on there, and if you have an abnormality, it's going to be obvious. And so if you're getting stuff like cramping, muscle cramps, that's often low potassium or low magnesium. Calcium causes the muscles to contract, and magnesium relaxes muscles. So if you don't have enough magnesium, you're going to tend to get cramps from contracted muscles, and they just can't relax easily because there's not enough magnesium. So that's why they can, yeah, but they measure that in the test. That the answer to your question is yes.
Now, I often associate cramps with older people. They get cramps in their bodies. Does that mean they have an electrolyte imbalance?
Yeah,
Very often that's the
increase
case.
in older people too. Do you
Yeah,
definitely hear them talking about it more?
yeah.
Yeah, so very often, yeah, having getting cramps is a problem with electrolytes. So there could be kidneys not functioning well if as you get older, your kidneys aren't getting rid of the sodium very well or balancing those electrolytes very well. Yeah, that's possible.
What do you think of all the craze about taking electrolytes before you work out, all these electrolyte drinks? Do you recommend them or do you think they're a good thing or only if you know you have a problem?
I've heard, yeah, people say first thing in the morning, the first thing you should drink is electrolytes in your water.
Yeah, yeah, people say that. Okay, so uh, um, the best way to look at that is to see if you're functioning well. So yeah, I think what you said about if you have an issue with whatever electrolytes, maybe your sodium potassium ratio is not very good, or your calcium magnesium ratio is not very good, or something like that, and so you need extra magnesium or something, or you're getting cramps and you say, well, if I take magnesium, it goes away, or if I get potassium, it goes away. To get high levels of potassium, you have to get it from juice. Well, juice has a lot of sugar in it. And so, since we do a diabetes webinar, we're not going to say, oh, just drink a ton of juice, except for one. There's actually celery juice. If you get 16 ounces of celery juice, that's 1,200 milligrams of potassium. That's a significant amount. And what that does is helps the body to replenish the potassium in the cells. Remember, I was saying the cells have a lot of potassium, and outside the cell in the blood, there's very little potassium. And the kidneys only look at what's in the blood. They're not looking at what's in your cells. So if your cells are depleted, and you need more potassium, you may need to supplement that with something like celery juice. And so the reason celery juice, it has no sugar in it. It's got all the potassium and it's not going to eat your stomach away.
You have to what do you juice a whole bunch of celery to drink that?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't require a whole lot. Yeah, it's no, 16 ounces of juice. You get, one stalk of celery. And well, not the stalk, the whole, thing. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Hmm.
bunch or bulk.
yeah.
Yeah.
I went and grabbed, Barton has a really good magnesium spray, and I went and grabbed mine out of the closet. We love this, and it's
Yes.
fast absorbing, wonderful. So I dropped a link to that in the chat, and then I will also put our discount code that if you are looking for some magnesium, this might be one you want to try.
I was just
Yeah, that's a spray, and that
Yeah.
avoids the issues that people sometimes get diarrhea with when they take magnesium. People who say, I can't take magnesium. Well, you spray this literally all over your body after a shower, like everywhere. And and then you just rub it in, and it absorbs through the skin. A certain amount of it absorbs through the skin, not all of it, of course.
Would it be better to have a binder? I read somewhere like put lotion on first and then the magnesium spray, or just straight onto the skin, which would help absorb it better.
I think it should be straight on the skin. I don't. So yeah, there are things that help absorption, but yeah, you wouldn't want to use DMSO. That stinks.
We
No,
have a couple people asking about drinking seawater.
Mm.
oh, that's interesting. That's a lot of salt. It's not particularly good for you, but it's high in sodium. With and people think that the seawater is high in electrolytes of other kinds too. It has very little, these tiny, tiny microgram quantities of like magnesium and strontium and iodine. People think, oh, there's iodine in seawater. Oh, yeah, but it is so tiny that not even worth talking about, kind of. That's how small it is. So I wouldn't recommend seawater.
Are any of the different versions of salt better or more beneficial than others? Sea salt, or there's the Himalayan sea salt, there's all the different salts.
Yeah, the
They all
Celtic sea
taste,
salt,
yeah, or you get your bang for
table
your buck,
salt.
or do you want
I
to?
don't I don't know. You have I've read about these things, the various ways of looking at salt. And if you take just your average table salt, the white salt, it's highly refined. They put it through like a 4,000-degree oven to burn everything off of it. And so there's nothing left but sodium and chloride and pretty much nothing else. And it's very sterile salt. So you get sodium from that. Other salts, like real salt, has some amount of magnesium in it. It's a little more magnesium than other salts. And then Himalayan salt has a little more iron in it, which gives it the pink color. But again, you're having tiny amounts of these micronutrients. And is that important? I don't know because there's just interesting things that have come up. For example, in Israel, they use reverse osmosis. They take seawater and put it through reverse osmosis to make drinking water. And so these RO filters get all the electrolytes out. And they started having issues with magnesium deficiencies in the people that were drinking this water. And we were always told, nah, you get it from your food, you don't get it from your water. Well, it might be a thing actually to get that from some minerals, some kind of minerals from water.
Mhm.
So, I wouldn't say it's absolutely unreasonable to say that something like real salt or Himalayan salt or sea salt is a better choice than the very sterile white salts, table salt.
Someone in the chat asked if your electrolytes are out of balance, how long does it take to balance them? Is it, something you can quickly, drink something, or, or is it a longer process?
That's a really good question. Minutes, like you could drink an electrolyte drink, and within minutes, like it's being absorbed and it's going through the kidneys. It's like wow, fast. Unless, except for in one case when the intracellular potassium is depleted, and so you have a low concentration gradient between the what's inside the cells and what's outside the cells. You have to replace that over time, and it takes days or weeks to get your potassium, your intracellular potassium back up. And that's with trying to. So, for example, if you were drinking extra potassium like in celery juice or other vegetable juices. But fruit juices, are about the same. If you were to drink apple juice, you're still getting about 1,000 milligrams of potassium and 16 ounces of that. So So yeah, if you're purposely replenishing potassium, it's still going to take days to weeks.
Yeah, Julie asks, since you mentioned celery again, she was asking this when you were talking about celery. Does cucumber have potassium in it too, and other veggies? What other
Yes,
things could you add to a
yes.
smoothie?
Yes, other vegetables and fruit. Yeah, they all have potassium at varying levels, but it's pretty similar that there you're always going to get somewhere around 1,000 milligrams of potassium in a 16 ounce juice. And the only reason we didn't use apple or orange juice or anything, because those are pretty high in sugar, and so they'll spike your blood sugar if you have type 2.
Mhm.
Will said that his potassium tested high at 5.3. How do I get it in the proper range?
Okay, good question. Okay, so then the question is, why is it 5.3? The number one reason for the potassium being a little bit high on a test in a person who's otherwise normal, in other words, you don't have renal failure or anything like that, is because there's small amounts of hemolysis. Um, Hemolysis means the red blood cells when they drew the blood, some of those red blood cells broke open. And when they break open, they release. Remember, I said there's a ton of potassium inside the cell and a tiny amount in the blood. If you break open a few of those cells, and they all leak into the blood, then the blood level goes up a little bit. And you're looking at, when they draw blood, they're only looking at like 5 cc's in a vial. And so if a few of those cells break open, then they're going to release their potassium, there are lots of potassium into that little bit in the blood and raise the blood level. So, first thing to do if your potassium is just a little bit high and you're not having problems with cramps or you don't have kidney failure or anything like that, just retest it. Just start off with just retest it to make sure it's normal. And again, then if it's not normal, consider why it would be elevated. Did you just eat something with a lot of potassium? One thing that's really interesting is that the Epstein-Barr virus, if you're sick and you have Epstein-Barr virus and you have um, a recurrence, so Epstein-Barr virus lives with us and it can recur. You can get this infection again, but you don't get it from outside. It comes from inside. And one of the things that it does is poisons the pump that pumps the potassium into the cells. And so the cells start leaking potassium into the blood. So the blood level goes up a little bit. So when somebody has like chronic fatigue or bad fatigue, or mononucleosis or something like that, they often do have a slightly or moderately elevated potassium because the cells are leaking potassium into the blood.
Very interesting. All right. Do factors like coffee, alcohol, certain medications like diuretics affect our hydration status and the balance? And should we be watching out?
Yes, absolutely. All of those things. Alcohol, caffeine, are two things that affect the kidneys in such a way you get what's called diuresis, which you're losing water. And so it'll affect your electrolyte balance. But you know what? Your kidneys are pretty well functioning. If your kidneys are pretty well functioning, they'll come back to normal pretty quickly after going off those things.
Okay.
All right, we have a question from Allison. I was told that a little salt water at night can help keep you from getting up to pee overnight. Is that true? And how much do you need to take
Salt water at night.
to keep you from peeing?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, it, it, in a way that would make sense. I have not heard that. That is one thing I have not heard of, so I haven't researched it. It would make sense physiologically because if you add salt, then you're going to tend to not have to get rid of water to bring things back into balance. So if your sodium is balanced when you go to bed, and people who drink a bunch of water, then their salt is relatively low and they have to bring it into balance, then they're going to have to pee out a bunch of water to get it down to the right salt level, the right sodium level in the blood. So it kind of makes sense, but I don't know if that's a thing.
Haven't you talked about in the past? I think going to the bathroom at night, if I don't remember, is a result of the pituitary gland, or what controls that going at night?
Yeah, the pituitary gland has a hormone called antidiuretic hormone. And when you lie down, it turns on. So it's a positional thing. And it turns on. Antidiuretic means it stop. Anti means stop. A diuretic is diuresis, is peeing. So it stops you from peeing. And that's what it does, so that you can sleep all night without having to pee.
I know there's a lot of people that carry around their big jugs of water. They have their daily water consumption and they have to get through it before the day's over. And I'm a person that, I like boundaries and I like to know expectations. So for the average person, a non-strenuous, just average life, how much regular water would you recommend to stay hydrated? I know it probably varies from person to person. So is it like, they used to talk about the 8 glasses a day rule, or just drink when you're thirsty, or what do you suggest?
Okay, so I researched this extensively for a Home Cures That Work article, and I was looking at, okay, what's the real issue here? And it seems like the best way to do it is to drink when you're thirsty. The reason for that, I know people have said if you wait till you're thirsty, it's too late. You're already dehydrated, and you shouldn't wait till you're thirsty. Okay. And then the other thing is to drink room temperature water. If you have only ice water, ice water is so cold, and gosh, if you could just picture in 3 dimensions, the roof of your mouth, way in the back, is this far from your brain.
Oh,
And as you're swallowing that cold water, you get that cold into your brain, and that there's actually sensors there that say, "Oh, I'm not thirsty anymore." So instead of getting fully hydrated, you when you drink really cold water, your thirst mechanism goes away really quickly before you actually get fully hydrated. So one of the issues may be drinking really, really cold water. So the rule would be drink room temperature water, drink when you're thirsty, because that's the best way to know when you need water.
so that's where brain freeze comes from. It's
Hmm.
way in the back. I didn't realize it was so close to your brain.
Yeah.
And that's a literal. You're literally freezing your brain when that
Oh,
happens. It's
in
not
in
just,
a sense, yes.
yes, not freezing like
Yeah.
cryotherapy, but
Yeah.
can I take a moment? Because I actually brought up something you did a long time ago. So, Home Cures at Work, you guys heard us talk about it. Dr. Saunders has written for it for 18 years. We used to dedicate each month to a topic. And a few years ago, we did one on dehydration. So, we do have, I'm going to share my screen, this little PDF. That has 4 or 5 articles about dehydration. If you want it, Dr. Saunders' articles in here. There are also articles about how to actually help you drink water. Please email us at support@bartonpublishing.com and ask for the dehydration report, and we'd be more than happy to send it your way. It's just a downloadable PDF that you can enjoy. It's free. So email support@bartonpublishing.com.
That's a great resource. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, we have another question in the chat. Okay, so this person says, I read that too many antioxidants could have a negative effect by increasing the blood flow to potential cancerous tumors. I take several antioxidant supplements such as NAC, CoQ10, oh, I don't know how to say this one, astaxanthin, and vitamin C. How much is too much?
Astaxanthin,
Oh, yeah, I really
and
did
vitamin
that
C.
right.
Okay. Okay.
Astaxanthin.
Those those are gosh. So I have not heard increasing blood flow to the tumors was an issue, because antioxidants, I think one of the things they're talking about is that tumors need blood, right? Because as the tissue's growing, you've got to bring more blood vessels in there. And so if you have better nutrition, you make more endothelial growth factor, which causes more blood vessels to form, and they go in there and they feed the cancer, right? And so I think that's the picture of what this antioxidants do. But the antioxidants don't do that. They don't actually make the endothelial growth factor. It's true they prevent the inflammation from blocking that endothelial growth factor. But gosh, to me that's a theoretical thing, but I don't yet know if that's true. So I can't say for sure either way. Um, however, the antioxidants have so many other benefits. I don't know. As far as cancer goes, also it blocks the inflammatory processes that cause cancer, well, or allow cancer to grow. So I would say the antioxidants are a good idea, um, generally.
What is the strongest antioxidant?
Well, glutathione, and so is probably the most important one of all. Superoxide dismutase is up there somewhere, and these are things that are made in our body. But for glutathione, there's a bottleneck of N-acetylcysteine. So the amino acid cysteine, there's three amino acids that make it up, and the cysteine is often a bottleneck. It's a sulfur amino acid that's used all over the body for a lot of things, and glutathione needs it. And so the supplement NAC by itself is a sulfur donor for detoxing in the liver, but it also then is made into glutathione, which is probably the most important one.
All right. We have a customer who's asking about Eagle Eye, and they gave it to her mother. He says, my mother started taking Eagle Eye vision supplement last week, and she began to have rashes all over her body. Her vision also did not get better. What could be a possible cause of this?
Okay. Um, uh, well, it could have nothing to do with the eagle eye, or it could have something to do with any one of the ingredients in it. So, it's possible for somebody to react to anything. It's not just, one likely possibility. And that's where the difficulty comes in because what if it was something else and not that? And we don't know. And so there are, for example, just as an example, there are thousands of people walking around saying they're allergic to penicillin because they had a rash after they got penicillin. But what really happens is when children get viruses, very often they get an exanthem or a rash because of the virus. And so they have a virus, they're sick, they're given penicillin, then they get a rash and they go, oh, you're allergic to penicillin, don't ever take penicillin again. And probably 99% of the people who say they're allergic to penicillin are not actually allergic to penicillin. They got a viral exanthem after their infection and they just happened to be on penicillin. So where do you go with that? You can't test somebody and say, well, let's see if you die from this. Here, let's try. We'll give you a shot of penicillin. You just can't do that. So they just allow them to be allergic to penicillin and never test. We have, and I've personally known of some cases where we bring people into the hospital, give them a dose of penicillin, and they don't react to it. And you go, "Phew, okay, you can take it." And so then we give them the IV penicillin because it was the only thing, or the only thing that we were able to treat their infection with, right? But there's so many other antibiotics now. It's like, go ahead, be allergic to penicillin. We're not going to even ask. So, was this reaction due to the eagle eye? Possibly, in which case, the best thing you can do is just stop it. Don't take that anymore. And the vision is not going to get better in a week or two anyway. It's going to actually take it's really over a long period of time, prevention of macular degeneration and prevention of damage to the retinas.
Yeah, how long would you say taking it to start seeing results in the average individual?
Well, a lot of the results are not getting worse.
Mm.
So if you already have damage to the macula, okay, so then that's there. And then what the REDS2 supplements do is they say, okay, um, you stop here, your progression of the degeneration does not continue on. And so you maintain your vision is really the best way to say that.
All right, we've got a question regarding ashwagandha. Which last week you talked about ashwagandha. Which of your supplements are okay to take ashwagandha with, and what time of the day?
Okay, ashwagandha can be taken once or twice a day. And it depends on your purpose for taking it. It's an adaptogen, meaning it helps your adrenal glands adapt to stress. So it's not a suppressant like some of them, like phosphatidylserine, for example, actually decreases the output of the adrenal cortisol. Whereas ashwagandha is more of, instead of being like way out, ashwagandha brings it into a more reasonable line, so it doesn't go too high and doesn't go too low. It stays. So to as an adaptogen, you can use that twice a day, and there aren't any of our supplements that you can't take it with. You can take it with any of them.
Yeah, and our Healthy Heart supplement is the one that has ashwagandha in it. I don't
Yeah.
know if the anonymous person who put this was asking about which supplement that has it, but that's our Healthy Heart supplement that has ashwagandha in it. All right. We have a question that's not kind of a little bit off topic, but what is the best way to deal with GERD?
GERD. Okay. GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, is acid reflux. It's often felt as burning in the esophagus or burning in the chest. Sometimes it's painful, like pressure in the chest. Sometimes it's indistinguishable from a heart attack, or you feel like someone's sitting on your chest. Because it's can cause spasms of the esophagus, and those spasms are felt as pressure, just the same way a heart attack does. So, chronic acid reflux is a big problem, and the medications that are used for acid reflux are huge. Like worldwide, they're like number two and number three of all the medications taken. Acid reflux medications are way up there in the amounts that people take. And now there's a whole bunch of different types. And the purpose for the medications is to lower stomach acid. Well, it makes sense if your acid is burning your esophagus, then you want to take something that stops that stomach acid. So in the old days, it was baking soda. What does that do? It neutralizes acid. And then the Rolaids and Tums. Those are all acid neutralizers. And then somebody thought, well, what if we used apple cider vinegar? So vinegar is a short chain fatty acid. It's actually an acid, but it's a weak acid that um, the advantage is it sort of neutralizes the strong acid of the stomach, but without getting rid of the acid, so that your stomach can still work and still digest food. And that's actually been pretty useful for some people too. And so we have a reflux reliever, and that's what we use in it, is not to completely neutralize the acid, but we're actually adding an acid in, but a weak acid so that it's not so strong. However, most people, when they do studies and they put those acid capsules into the stomach and measure the acid levels in the stomach, people with really bad acid reflux have low acid. They're not really high acid. So here's the best way to look at it. If you're eating continuously, when you first eat, you make acid, and you make a lot of acid. The pH of your stomach goes so high acid that, it would dissolve just about anything. And it does, and it's supposed to. It's supposed to denature all the proteins so you can cut them up and digest them. And so you need a lot of acid. And then after you're done eating, the acid drops down. And then your next meal, it goes up again. And then you stop eating, and your stomach empties out, it goes down. Okay, so that's a normal pattern. But what if you were to eat continuously? What if you were to have, like the nutritionists tell us these days, uh, 5 small meals a day with snacks in between, so you never have an empty stomach? So if you never had an empty stomach, what does the stomach acid looks like? Well, it goes like this. It starts at zero and goes up really high, but it never gets empty, so it just goes down a little bit. And then you eat and it goes up a little bit, and then it goes down, it starts going down, but then you eat again, it goes up a little bit, it starts going down, then you eat, it goes up a little, and then it pretty much is going like this, never getting up, never getting down. So here's the problem. You don't, because you're eating all the time, your stomach acid is always like in this low range. So it never gets high enough to digest your food properly, but it never gets low enough for the stomach to repair. So it's always going to be acidic, and it's always going to be burning. And so it's always going to be there. So the number one best thing you can do for acid reflux is to have an empty stomach. So your empty stomach needs to be between meals. So when you eat, you stop eating, and then you have nothing for 5 hours till your next meal. And then you eat, and then you're done eating, and then you have nothing for 5 hours to your next meal. And 2 meals a day is a heck of a lot better than 3 meals a day. So if you separate 2 meals a day by at least 5 hours between them, then that gives time for the acid to drop down to zero, reset the whole system, and then you're ready to take on the next meal and digest that one. So, people who have really bad acid reflux, they go down to 1 meal a day, and that works for them. I have one woman, one in 30 years, she fasts for a day and a half. So she eats on Sunday night. Monday is her fast day, and she doesn't eat till Tuesday morning. So it's a day and a half. And if she does that every week, she has no acid reflux. And this is somebody, she had gone from doctor to doctor, gastroenterologist. She'd had all the tubes down her throat. She'd had uh, biopsies. She had everything. And nothing was working at all. All the medication, she took all the acid blockers, everything, and nothing worked. But when she went for a day and a half, that's what it took. Less than that didn't work, then her acid reflux completely went away and she was fine after that. If she ate on Mondays, it came back and she had to just do once a week, that's all. So consider that in order to repair that system of getting the acid right, high to digest your food, low and when you have an empty stomach. The best way to handle acid reflux is having an empty stomach. Gosh, that was long, huh?
Good though.
I'm
Does that
sorry.
have any effect then on your electrolytes?
Does what have any effect?
The fasting then, if you're a person who regularly fasts, do you need to be concerned about your hydration or the electrolytes if you're not eating?
Yeah, it does affect your electrolytes. It definitely does. And I've noticed that, and people have told me that in fasting, it's easy to get cramps because of these electrolyte imbalances, changing of electrolytes. But ultimately, it comes out better in the long run because the kidneys function better, and then there's more ATP around for the energy, the ATP, to use the pumps to pump the potassium in, sodium out.
Mhm. Very interesting. I cannot believe it's the top of the hour already. Our time has flown
Wow.
today.
Yeah, that was fast.
Yes, it was. Dr. Saunders, thank you so much for your time.
You're
If the
welcome.
you will hang on for a few minutes, we have a couple
Yeah.
of things we want to share with
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Saunders. Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. He's got patients to see. So, Cheryl, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about the cheat sheet? And I'm going to drop that information in the chat. You can tell them what that is, please.
Yes, that's another thing you can email us about. So if you want the dehydration report, you can email us, or if you would like a cheat sheet on how to take our supplements. It's a summary of what our supplements are, when we advise to take them with or without food, whether you take them in the morning or whether you take them at night. It has all of our supplements. So regardless of what you are taking, and you want more information, just email us and we will gladly send out for free the cheat sheet. And you won't be added to another email list. This is just because we're about giving and we want to help you. So feel free to reach out to us about that or any other questions, really.
Thank you. Thank you so much with that. All right. So I also just dropped a couple additional links in there in the chat. So a reminder about the cheat sheet. And then I also dropped in a link to an article that Dr. Saunders wrote about dehydration. And I know that we've covered a lot today, and sometimes it can be a lot of information to put together. We don't get to all of the questions. I wish we could just, keep him around for hours and hours and hours, but we can't. But if you do go to the Home Cures That Works page that we have, and I put that website in the chat, you can search. Cheryl talked about this last week. And so, like this week, I typed hydration in that search bar, and that article that I'm sharing there popped up, and really, really good information in that. So, you can do that for any topic. There are, oh my goodness, hundreds of articles out there. And if you miss any of the links after we leave, we get off and you're like, oh no, I meant to grab that link and I didn't. We're going to start adding the links to the replay that we have of these, which is out on YouTube. We're going to put them there in the comments so that they'll live there forever. So you'll always be able to go and find them. So all you really need to do is if you go to YouTube and you search Barton Publishing webinars, that'll take you to the page where all of these past webinars live, so you can go and you can rewatch, and then that's where we will also be putting a lot of these links. So if you miss something, definitely go check it out on YouTube, find today's webinar, and you will be able to find those chats. And I believe today's webinar number is 310, so that's the one you'll be looking for. All right, that is it for today. Cheryl, anything else from you?
No, I just want to give a hands to you who've kind of taken over the webinar and doing such a fine job with hosting it and bringing everything organized before the webinar and making it easy for our customers after the webinar. Thank you. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. It's been really fun to get involved in this. Like I said, I love to listen to Dr. Saunders teach, so I am absorbing all of this information as well. So it's definitely benefiting me too. So we will be back here next week, same time, same place. We are 2 weeks to Christmas Day. Or not Christmas Day,
Ooh.
Christmas Eve. Oh my word. So we will have our webinar next week, but then that will be it. We'll take a couple week break for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and then we'll be back for the new year. So one more webinar for 2025. Where
Wow,
has the time gone?
so fast.
I know it.
But we have a lot of good things coming in 2026 for the webinar. We're excited. We've been planning behind the scenes. So we're excited. New things will happen in 2026. Stick around and
Yes.
invite your friends.
Yes. Yes, invite your friends, and oh yes, we just want to share all of this information with everybody. So we're working on some good topics, and we're going to be asking for your suggestions. So be thinking if there are topics you would like Dr. Saunders to talk about. We're going to be having a way that you can share that very, very soon. So be thinking about what you might want Dr. Saunders to cover. In the meantime, Barton World, thank you so much, and we will see you all back here next week.
Bye all.